Last time out of the Slovakia ring, we had an action-packed race. Going down into turn one, the Ferrari of Felipe Salaquada just about managed to hold the lead from the chasing pack, but a brilliant start from the Ford GT of Milos Pavlovic almost moved him up into second position. Instead, it was the Mercedes around the outside who moved up into that second place. Pavlovic's race would end pretty soon because he and Thomas Enger came together down at turn three. A puncture for both cars plus suspension damage meant they would be out of the race. The number one McLaren of Fred Makovicky started to slice his way through the order, making up a number of positions. Stefan Rosina going around the outside of two cars at turn one. The local man in his first race this season in the championship, performing very strongly indeed. Fred Makovicky in that number one McLaren continued his charge through the field, soon right up behind Felipe Salaquada and managing to squeeze through on the inside to take the lead of the race, much to his teammate Stef Dusseldorp's delight. Once again this season, the two WRT Audis were battling. On this occasion, Frank Stippler getting past Stefan Ortelli into turn one. The pit stops came around and Fred Makovicky came in to hand over to Stef Dusseldorp, but just as the Porsche came into the pits, the McLaren had to pause, and that handed the lead to the 18 car of Michael Bartels. He emerged in the V1 Racing Team BMW, now in the lead of the race, comfortably clear of the McLaren in second position. Meanwhile, the second BMW was trying to hold off the two Audis behind for fifth place. First of all, to attack Nicky Mermelnov, it was Oliver Jarvis, getting the cutback out of turn one, up the inside into turn two to make the move stick. Lawrence Vanthoor found it a little bit more difficult. On the outside into the final corner, he was pushed onto the grass, just about managing to keep the Audi facing the right way. He wasn't particularly impressed with the driver in front though. There was no such trouble for Michael Bartels. He crossed the line to win the fourth round of the championship. Fred Makovicky delighted with his Hexis McLaren's second place. Marcus Winkelhock and Mark Basseng completed the podium. Michael Bartels and Jelmer Berman moved to the top of the championship. The fifth round of the 2012 championship takes us to Portugal and the fantastic Algarve circuit. The WRT Audi team had a solid weekend last time out at Slovakia ring with a 5th and 6th positions in the championship race, but after their dominating weekend back in April at Nogaro, they're going to be hoping they can find more at this Portuguese circuit. Stefan Ortelli believes that the tight and twisty circuit might suit his Audi R8 LMS.
Yeah, for us to be here, it's actually my first time. I think it's really exciting. The last corners give us a lot of top speed, and all these blind corners are really, really demanding when you're alone. So I can't wait to be racing with the others, because I think it will be an exciting challenge. Last corner will give us a lot of possibility to overtake in a straight line. I can't wait to drive with the others.
BMW were delighted to be back on the pace at the Slovakia ring, but Nicky Mermelnov and Matthias Lauda struggled to match the result of their teammates, getting caught up in a few incidents both in qualifying and the races. But Michael Bartels and Jelmer Berman moved themselves to the top of the championship with the championship race win, which undoubtedly delighted team boss Bartels.
We are the leader of the current GT1 Drivers' Championship and coming here to Portimao for the 5th round of the GT1 World Championship. Of course, our main goal is to defend the lead of the championship here and be also in the top 1 position in the rankings of the pit stop competition in qualifying race and in the championship race.
Of course, the Ferrari remain in 5th place in the championship after the Slovakia ring. It was another difficult weekend for Francesco Castellacci and his teammate Enzo Ede, still struggling to get the pace out of the Ferrari that their teammates are showing, because Tony Verlander and Felipe Salaquada won the qualifying race at the Slovakia ring, but they couldn't turn their pole position into race win. That's something Tony Verlander is hoping they can change here.
I feel quite confident. We feel that we probably made a step forward. We've been struggling a little bit to be consistent during the year, and hopefully from here on our performance is a bit stronger. I like the track a lot, so I think this is my 4th appearance here, and I really enjoy the demanding track of Portimao, so hopefully we can bring the car number 3 on the top.
Incredibly, the Sun-Red Ford GT of Matteo Cressoni and Milos Pavlovic have yet to pick up a point this season, despite fantastically strong performances in the last 2 rounds at Novara and the Slovakia ring. Matteo Cressoni is hoping that'll change this weekend.
Be back after a few 2 years, and I'm really happy to be here. I hope to have a good result after the good performance in Slovakia. Today we are quite fine. We are working a lot for tomorrow, and cross the fingers.
Reiter Engineering have also struggled to turn their pace into points so far this season. Despite strong performances from both of their drivers, Albert von Turn and Taxis is their top man in the championship in 10th place. He's going to be joined this weekend by Stefan Racina, who after a strong debut weekend in the Lamborghini at Slovakia ring is hoping for more this time out.
For me, it was a surprise to come here, but it's my first time here, and it's great to do a GT1 after the career that I had before, and obviously with Lambo. Seems that the car has now bigger restrictor, better BOP, so let's see, I think we're gonna do well.
Hex's McLaren have moved up into second place in the team's championship after another strong weekend at the Slovakia ring. Their two cars will be hoping that they can climb onto the top step podium once again, hopefully aided by Álvaro Parent's local knowledge. The Portuguese driver excited to be racing here at Portimao.
It's great to be racing at home, having all the friends over and everything, so really happy to be here. This weekend, still don't know how it's going to go. I think we can be very competitive. We were on the last two. Why not be here? So why not be very competitive here? And we're all pushing hard, McLaren, Hexes, the drivers, so looking forward for this weekend.
At the top of the team's championship though, it's Alinkel.com Munich Motorsports with their Mercedes-Benz SLS. Marc Basseng is absolutely delighted with how this season has progressed so far, but he's still hoping to be on that top step at some point.
Well, Portimao is a really nice track. I hope our car suits the track. It's a lot of aerodynamic you need, and our car obviously have. So we try our best like every weekend. The straights are really long, so it's maybe difficult with other cars who have a bigger top speed than us, but we will see.
Porsche's season has tailed off a little bit since their strong weekend in Zolder, which saw them move towards the top of the championship. Now Mike Parisi and Matt Halliday are down in 8th. Halliday isn't here this weekend. He will be replaced in that car by Andres Zuber.
Yes, I'm very happy to be back again. Last time in Slovakia ring, I drove already with Benjamin Lariche, and now I'm here with Mike Parisi. I'm very happy to drive with Mike because he's a very quick driver. Porsche should be good here in Algarve. So let's see tomorrow. Team is doing a good job, and yeah, I hope for the best.
Good afternoon everybody and welcome to the Algarve circuit just outside of Portimao in Portugal for the 5th qualifying race of the season in the FIA GT1 World Championship. My name's Jack Nichols. I'm up here in the commentary box overlooking the start-finish straight on what is a glorious day in the Algarve. 26.5 degrees, the air temperature here, track temperature a little hotter, and well, coming into this weekend, this is how the championship standings look. Michael Bartels and Jelmer Berman are on top, 6 points clear of Steph Dusseldorp and Fred Makavicki, but neither of those top two have made it into the top 10 in qualifying, so it's going to be a real challenge for them today. Marc Basseng and Marcus Winkelhock perhaps best placed, starting in 3rd place on the grid. We'll take you through the grid in a few moments' time. Hayley Coxon will be helping us out down in the pit lane, but here's a look at the grid for this qualifying race. You can see the two AF Corsa Ferraris on the front row. It's Tony Verlander in the number 3 AF Corsa Ferrari on the left-hand side of your screen there. He's the pole sitter. Alongside him will be Felipe Salaquada, I should say, starting that Ferrari. Alongside him will be Francesco Castellacci in the number 4 AF Corsa Ferrari. So Ferrari front row lockout. Then we've got a second row lockout from the Mercedes-Benzes, the Alinkel.com Munich Motorsports squad. So the safety car, or the leading car I should say, about to head off already. It's a very quick turnaround, 1 minute till the start of this formation lap, and the team personnel leaving the grid. It's going to be an hour-long qualifying race, and one which I'm expecting actually to be pretty interesting, because we've got some slower cars, or some quicker cars I should say, further down the field than we perhaps would have expected. The likes of the McLarens, you can see the first McLaren is down there in 8th place. Álvaro Parent will be starting that car. He's going to be very, very quick off the line. Watch the Ford GT. He made a cracking start in Navarra, did Milos Pavlovic, and he's going to be hoping for something similar today. Equally, the two Visa for One racing team BMWs, Michael Bartels and Niki Meyer-Melnov, down in 11th and 13th position. There you can see the two BMWs. They won the championship race. The 18 car did last time out at the Slovakia ring, but they're starting a long way down the field for this race here today. You'll notice there's only one Porsche out there. That's because unfortunately the number 8 Porsche won't start due to engine troubles. Here's a look at the grid though. Salaquada and Castellacci it is on the front row. Winkelhock and Jaeger will be piloting the Mercedes that make up the second row. Then we've got Peter Cox starting his Lamborghini ahead of Milos Pavlovic in the Ford GT. The first of the Audis will be Oliver Jarvis in 7th position ahead of the first of the McLarens in Hans Valvara Perez. Stefan Rossina back again this weekend. He's going to be in the Lamborghini alongside Lawrence Vanthorpe. Then we've got championship leaders Bartels and Berman in 11th place, with 2nd place Dusseldorp and Makovic alongside them. And then Nicky Meyer-Malnoff and Andreas Zuber complete the grid. So first and second in the championship starting on row 6 of the grid. It's certainly going to be a pretty exciting time. There's one of the hairpins down at turn 6. And that's somewhere where I'm expecting to see a reasonable amount of action. It's downhill braking, so you have to get on the brakes relatively early to get the car stopped in time, because of course you're not just fighting against the speed you've gathered, you're also fighting against gravity. And so as a result, there may be a chance of some overtakes going down into there, but we'll have to see how this race transpires. Also watch out for Andreas Zuber. They struggled a little bit in qualifying in that Porsche, but he's got some pace to move higher up the field. The two Mercedes drivers feeling very confident ahead of this race, because we have seen in the past that Ferrari, as we look back from Markus Winkelhock's car in 38, the Ferraris have had good, it's actually Thomas Jaeger's car, I apologise, that we're looking back from, but the Ferraris in general haven't had the best race pace. They're fine in the qualifying, but when the race comes around they can find it a little bit of a challenge to keep that momentum going. They've struggled to get consistency with their Pirelli tyres, the Pirelli tyres that are new to GT1 for 2012. But this race is about to get underway. The leading car backing them up. They'll soon move into 2x2 formation. This is turn 15, the long right-hander, and two cars just, that was Peter Cox just going past the slowing Thomas Jaeger, but Jaeger seems to have got it all sorted, and there's no major dramas there. And there's our championship leaders then, down a long way in 11th place, on board with Michael Bartels as he pulls up alongside the McLaren of Stef Dusseldorp. And this race is about to get underway. It's Felipe Salaquada on pole position in the number 3 Ferrari. Francesco Castellacci alongside him in the number 4 Ferrari. The battle of the brands brings Ferrari versus Mercedes to the front 2 rows here at Portimao. We wait for the lights to go off. When they do, this hour-long qualifying race will be underway. It's a long hold, very long hold, and they're all slowly bunching up. When will the lights go green? There we go, finally we get away, and it's a neck-and-neck start between the two Ferraris down towards the first corner. Moving to the inside straight away is Markus Winkelhock, but he's lost out possibly to his teammate as they all try and squeeze through the very tight first corner. Then it gets even more tight down there at turn 4. On board we go with Michael Bartels as he tries to thread his way through the pack, but at the moment it's still Ferrari. The two Mercedes having a little bit of a touch there. That was a bit close, a bit too close for comfort as they climb the hill through the quick left-hander at turn 5. The two BMWs side by side as well. Bartels on the outside, his teammate possibly trying to look past him on the inside, but under braking we come for the hairpin for the first time, and they're all starting to stack up behind the Mercedes then in second place. That's Alvaro Parent being pushed out wide, and Bartels has lost out to his teammate, so Nicky Meyer-Malnoff, and they've got the Porsche around the outside of him, so Andy Zuber trying to get past Bartels as well, and he's managed it. So Bartels is down into 13th position halfway around this first lap. So the two Ferraris have broken clear. Then here come the McLarens, and it's the number 1 McLaren actually who's been shuffled back as well. So Stef Dusseldorp and Michael Bartels really losing out in that start sequence, but the Ferraris have already managed to gather a little bit of a gap to the Mercedes behind them. And you can see Stef Dusseldorp frustrated with that start. He felt in qualifying that they could have got the car into the top 8 for the final segment of qualifying. And so he believes the pace is definitely in that McLaren, but whether he can find it or not is a different question. We look back at the attacking Peter Cox in the Lamborghini. The Lambo is going to have some decent straight line speed, but through this fantastic downhill right-hander, the Mercedes have been very strong all weekend. Cox is pretty close though as they stream across the line. Then Tony Verlander continues to lead, Castellacci in second, Winkelhock in third, but the battle over third place is really queuing up because Jaeger is having to go defensive. Peter Cox is right up behind him, but he's just about managed to hold on for the time being. Milos Pavlovic in 6th, Alvaro Parente in 7th. And this is fantastic shots as the Raging Bull Lamborghini tries to find a way through. And a bit out of shape there on the exit from Peter Cox. That's going to compromise his run out through turn 5. Now this is Nicky Meyer-Malnoff. He's got past Laurens Vanthoor. Andreas Zuber's going side by side with Vanthoor as well, trying to stick it around the outside on the run down into the hairpin. Let's see how this transpires down here, and Zuber has made it past, hasn't he? If he can just about get it stopped in time, he can. And Laurens Vanthoor loses out, so he's lost out to Meyer-Malnoff and Zuber in the opening corners, in the opening sector really, of this second lap of the race. So Ferrari leading. Then it's Mercedes in 3rd and 4th, before we get Lamborghini, Ford, McLaren and Audi completing the top 8 at the moment. You do get 8 points for winning this qualifying race, but the main purpose is to provide the grid for the championship race, which comes up tomorrow. That's where most of the points are up for grabs. Now, we need to keep a monitor on this gap at the front then, because Tony Villander hasn't sprinted away from Francesco Castellacci just yet, and the Mercedes seem to be keeping with them reasonably well. Well, Villander's starting to stretch his legs now towards the latter end of this lap. Through this fantastic shot, down through turn 16 they come, all hugging the inside line. And there's the Porsche, and look at that. There's the number 1 car of Stef Dusseldorp, right out behind Michael Bartels. They've both got past Laurens Vanthoor. Laurens Vanthoor must have a problem, I think, because he is dropping back through the order very quickly. Stefan Racina has come into the pits as well, actually, according to the timing screens. Yeah, I can hear him now coming underneath my commentary box. So Stefan Racina, I wonder if he and Vanthoor perhaps got together and it has caused damage to both of their cars. Harsh defending from Dusseldorp. He comes straight across to not let Michael Bartels through. Maybe Vanthoor isn't struggling too much. He's had to get on the brakes there to avoid going into the back of Bartels. The carriage so much speed up there through turn 5, and now he's going to be on the outside line for turn 6, which isn't really going to work out for him. Try and get the cutback, but through 7, 8 and 9 there's not really an overtaking opportunity. Another little dab on the brakes because he almost got up alongside. He's got so much more speed in that Audi than Michael Bartels at the present time. They may only be battling over what is now 11th position, but Laurens Vanthoor very keen to get past. Here we go then, on board, and there you can see front left and front right change as well. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, the front right's off as well for Stefan Racina, so hopefully we can find out what's happened down there. There's Albert von Taxis checking out the damage. Can't seem to spot anything at the moment. So Dusseldorp then is past Bartels and up into 11th position. We go back on board with Vanthoor. This is through the long, very slow right-hander, a very clumsy corner that the drivers don't really tend to enjoy, but then they get to go through turn 16, which they really enjoy. There's the McLaren, there's the BMW, and there's the Audi of Vanthoor, desperately trying to close in. And we've got side by side, and this is an attack for second place, and Winkelhock's through. Marcus Winkelhock up into second position, past Francesco Castellacci. The Mercedes starting to get into their rhythm now for the race pace, and Castellacci will need to be careful because he's got Thomas Jaeger right up behind him as well. Almost contact as they come through turn 4, through the fast left-hander at turn 5. The Mercedes are strong through there, so if he can get a good look down into the hairpin, he might be able to get past, but Castellacci sees it coming, covers the inside line in that Ferrari. Is later on the brakes as well. Is that going to overshoot him the corner? No, it's not. So that was good defensive driving there from Castellacci, but he couldn't stop Marcus Winkelhock coming past into second place. And will Winkelhock now be able to close in on Felipe Salaquada at the head of the field? On that last lap, he was 0.2 of a second quicker. So this is going to be a very, very interesting battle that will now develop. There's probably about 1.5 to 2 seconds between first and second places. How quickly will that gap close down? Peter Cox is also looking racy behind. There will be a mandatory driver change, 35 minutes remaining. The pit stop window will open, and it will close with 25 minutes remaining. So a 10-second pit stop window in the middle of this race where the drivers will have to come in, change all 4 tyres, and the driver. And now the pressure really is going to be on Thomas Jaeger to try and get past the Ferrari in front of Francesco Castellacci without getting caught and passed by Peter Cox behind there in the number 25 Reiter Engineering Lamborghini, and he's already got alongside. The Mercedes are so strong through that final corner that Jaeger's just driven past. That's fantastic stuff, but Castellacci will get back in the slipstream, try and find the inside line. Jaeger has it covered, moves back towards the outside line and consolidates the position. So Mercedes now up into second and third places, and Francesco Castellacci really starting to struggle now. Peter Cox will be on him before too long, and that battling has allowed the number 10 Ford GT of Milos Pavlovic into play as well. Up through turn 5, and the Ferrari is really struggling through the kind of quicker corners by the looks of things. As he then comes down into the hairpin, Cox not close enough this time around to make a move. The gap came down again, 0.3 of a second on that last lap between first and second places. So Marcus Winkelhock is now just 1.1 seconds behind race leader Felipe Salaquada. The puncture we saw for Stefan Rosina, they're not entirely sure where they got the puncture from, whether it was contact or just a bit of debris they ran over, but it was a puncture, and they've sent Rosina back out in the race. But unfortunately, to all intents and purposes, they're a lap down now as well, so even if something like a safety car happened, they would still be a lap down, unfortunately. So Rosina and Albert von Taxis will have to just focus on getting some running in before tomorrow's championship race. So who will be the next man to get past Francesco Castellacci, or can he stop his slide backwards through the order? Peter Cox struggling with traction on the exit of turn 15 there a little bit. There are the Lamborghini crew watching to see what Cox can do. So the gap between first and second was 1.1 seconds at the end of the last lap. Salaquada comes across the line now, and the gap's down to just 0.6 of a second. It was halved on that last lap. The battle for the lead is very much on. The battle for fourth place is on as well. Cox showing his nose into turn 1, but not close enough to make any kind of a move. But look how quickly that Mercedes has closed in on the Ferrari up at the front. Thomas Jaeger was very confident, Nicky Passarelli was very confident in the Mercedes race pace. They've had good race pace all season, and it certainly looked as though they've managed it this time around. Here was the start then. They spread out fairly quickly, the two Ferraris working well together, going side by side and not allowing any attacks. It was all fairly well behaved and neat, wasn't it? And there was almost a bit of contact between the two Mercedes, which was a little bit close. That was a little bit close as well. Peter Cox coming up to the back of Thomas Jaeger. This is on board with Michael Bartels, getting done around the outside by Andreas Zuber and up the inside by his teammates. So that was not a particularly strong hairpin for Bartels, and yet he lost out to the Porsche there too. This is on board with the 32 car of Lawrence Vanthor, so that's where Vanthor lost a couple of positions as well, getting knocked out wide. Here are our race leaders. Felipe Salaquada leading the way with Marcus Winkelhock right up behind. What's Thomas Jaeger's lap times like? He's not as quick as Marcus Winkelhock in front of him, so the leading Mercedes is the quickest one. And there's nothing that Jaeger can seem to do about that at the moment, so it's all about this battle for the lead as they drop through turn 16. Keep an eye on Peter Cox as well, though, because he's a man with plenty of experience, oldest ever driver in FIA GT1 World Championship, but that's not stopping him. He looks to the outside line. The Ferrari knew it was going to be in trouble, so he covered the inside line immediately to Castellacci. Lamborghini on the outside. Surely the Ferrari will be able to hold this on the brakes. He can. They need to watch out for Milos Pavlovic, though, because he's going to be the man with the most momentum through there, and Cox has to back out of the throttle. That allows Pavlovic the chance, does it? No, not quite. It's so tight through that turns 1, 2 and 3 complex that if you're offline, there's almost no way of going through as fast as you possibly want to. Darrell O'Young, Peter Cox's teammate, watching on down there in the garage. And that little very wide there from Castellacci, and Peter Cox is almost right back on his tail. I was just about to say, Castellacci's managed to pull away a little bit because of that battle. Then he made that mistake down at the hairpin, and that allowed Peter Cox right back onto his tail. It's all kicking off further back in the order. McLaren, BMW, Porsche and Audi all squabbling over, I think, 10th position. We go on board with Michael Bartels. That's the McLaren to the right of us. He's not going to be able to hold on to that. He's going to try and get the cut back into 9. Not close enough. Dusseldorp holds on to that position, but Bartels has got an excellent drive out of the corner. There's going to be contact there, and there is a little bit of a nerf with the McLaren. They both seem to be running still at the moment through the very fast left-hand kink at 11. The McLaren holds onto the position, so Bartels is desperate to try and find a way past, but as yet unable to get past Stef Dusseldorp. This is allowing all of the others to queue up behind. Stefan Racina's in the party as well at the back, but he's a lap down, so he doesn't really count. But I think he was sending one at the inside of the Porsche there, wasn't he? He was. So Racina still fighting hard despite being a lap down. So Stef Dusseldorp has managed to consolidate that 10th position for the moment. Andreas Zuber was in 10th place when they crossed the line. He's now going to be in 13th place, so not a good lap for Andreas Zuber. It all kicked off up there at turns, well, 7 and 8 really. But now the McLaren has to go very defensive because Michael Bartels is coming back on the attack. We've got trains of cars everywhere because now Peter Cox is really, really close to the back of Castellacci, closer than he has been. And this is allowing the McLaren of Alvaro Parent to join in as well. Here are our race leaders then. And Thomas Jaeger has closed in a lot, hasn't he? So it's now a three-way battle for the lead of the race. Then we've got a 4-5-way battle for fourth position. And then we've got that 5-car train over 10th place as well. So fantastic race developing here at Portimao. Battle for the lead. Now Winkelhock charged up to the back of the Ferrari, but now he's near the back. He's struggling to really close in much more. Dirty air does have an impact in the same way it does in Formula 1, but by no means to the same level, because there's a lot less aerodynamics at play here in these GT1 cars. But it still will have a slight effect, especially through some of the higher downforce corners. But the Mercedes we've seen very strong through turn 16. That's where they're approaching now, so that could be something to look for as they drop down through the right-hander. There's Pavlovich now coming under pressure from Parente, and here they come through 16. Winkelhock taking a lot of curb on the inside line. Has that been enough to get him up towards the back of the car in front? Yes, it has. Across the line they come, and there's hardly anything separating, probably about 3 foot as they come past the commentary box window. Winkelhock looks to the outside, but as long as Salaquada gets it stopped, and watch out for the cutback, he should be able to hold the lead, and he does. So fastest lap of the race was on lap 3 from Marcus Winkelhock. Since then he's slowed up a little bit, and Jaeger has been the man pressing, and we could have a bit of an inter-team battle here with Al Inkel. It's also possibly worth considering that they could do with dispensing of this Ferrari as quickly as possible, because Salaquada is going to hand over in about 10 minutes time to Tony Verlander, and Tony Verlander it was who took pole position 9/10 of a second clear of the rest of the field. So Verlander has got such pace that I think a battle between Verlander and the Mercedes may end differently to a battle between Salaquada and the Mercedes. So the three leaders climb the hill at 9, through the kink at 10. Great to watch by the side of the track there and see them plummeting down that drop. Now we turn our attentions all the way back to 10th place. Stef Dusseldorp and Michael Bartels doing battle over that 10th position, which doesn't even yield any points. It's all about the qualifying positions for tomorrow's championship race. Stefan Racina, they've started to drop Andreas Zuber rapidly actually, so I don't know where Andreas Zuber's pace has gone in the last couple of laps, but here we go then. On board with the 37 car we were with Thomas Jaeger, and you can see how wide the Ferrari is. He needs to get across to the inside line very quickly, and he does so, Salaquada, but once again Winkelhock is going to be on the outside line. He's not going to be quite able to pull along. The second Ferrari is having to go defensive as well. Has he got enough of an overlap into turn 1? No, he hasn't. So Winkelhock has to hold on to it for the moment. Ferrari goes wide on the exit of 1, but there's no way past into 2 or 3, and Jaeger having a look up the inside of his teammate as well. 3 cars absolutely right together. Ferrari versus Mercedes over the crest of 5. And how long can Salaquada hold off this kind of pressure for? He's having to go defensive into almost every heavy braking zone. And the 2 Mercedes are right up behind. Is this allowing it is, you know, Castellacci, Cox, Parente, that gaggle behind are lapping quicker than the leaders at the moment. So that could well close in, which would be fantastic for the race. But Castellacci, in response to the pressure from Peter Cox, is lapping some half a second a lap quicker than his teammate. And here's Peter Cox. Has he got the inside line into the left-hander? That's going to be a tight one. Has to back out of it, Peter Cox. That was a brave little look, but into 11 and 12, he has to get out of the throttle. Those two have managed to drop Alvaro Perrin just a little bit, and the Ford, and Oliver Jarvis. So it's worth pointing out Oliver Jarvis is doing a decent job actually there in 8th position. But look at this queue now, 1st to 8th all together, pretty much, give or take a couple of tenths here and there. So out onto the start-finish straight they come, and once again you can see how far behind the Mercedes are through or going into turn 16, but then by the time they're on the start-finish straight, the Ferrari is really panicking about having to go defensive. Not so much this time though as they come across the line. On board we go with Jaeger again in 3rd place. Ferrari still going defensive, but probably didn't quite need to there. Castellacci also following his teammates' technique and going defensive, now into 4. And the Mercedes really just struggling to find a way past. And what's happened there to Peter Cox? He's out of the race, is he? Or has he just gone wide? I thought maybe he would... The way he went off was like he had a puncture. He's having a look around, trying to select first gear perhaps, but the Dutch driver Peter Cox is off at turn 4. He's looking around, he gesticulates, and I wonder if he's unbuckling there by the looks of things. We'll have to wait and see, but I wonder if he's tried to have a look into 4 and it hasn't worked out for him. But whatever happens, Peter Cox is out of contention now. Just look to the left-hand side of the screen there. Well, he was behind the Ferrari and the McLaren, so it's very, very difficult to figure out what happened, I have to say, because he should have been in between the Ferrari and the McLaren. But yeah, Peter Cox out of the race. The marshals are pushing him away from the circuit a little bit. But here's up at the front, 40 minutes to go, 5 minutes until the pit stop window opens, and the Ferrari and the two Mercedes are only 0.7 of a second apart as they cross the line at the end of that previous lap. Are they going to be closer this time around? If anything, Jaeger might be closer to his teammate than Winkelhock is to Salaquada up at the front. Across the line they come then, and yeah, Salaquada has just about managed to keep it stable this time. He's not having to go defensive at all into turn 1. Let's not forget also, Al Inkel have fantastic pit stops. That's how they got their positions in Navarra to a degree, was their fantastically quick pit stop work. And they're just going to leave Peter Cox's car there. Safety car deployed. Look at that, the SC board going out, and that means we will have the safety car here. So everyone will have to slow down and form a nice orderly queue before the safety car will come out. They're still battling down there, Stefano Sina and Lawrence Vanthor. There you can see safety car boards are out, so the race will be brought under neutralisation. And now the car's all starting to back off. There is Peter Cox. They're obviously going to have to move that car because it is in a bit of a dangerous position now. The interesting thing is going to be how long this safety car stays out for, and whether anyone decides to, at what point you decide to come into the pits. Marcus Winkelhock realizes he may have to do that fairly soon, and so as a result is getting ready to take over. So the yellow flags and the safety car bring the race under neutralization. Ferrari leading, then we've got the two Mercedes in 2nd and 3rd places. Marcus Winkelhock ahead of Thomas Jaeger. 4th place is Francesco Castellacci in the Ferrari. 5th position, Alvaro Perrin. 6th, Oliver Jarvis. 7th, Milos Pavlovic. So Pavlovic lost out in that battle as well. 8th place is now Nicky Meyer-Melnov. And that's not the safety car, but that Reiter engineering car of Peter Cox is off at the side of the circuit. Let's hear from Hayley Coxon. Hayley, what do you know about that?
Yeah, hey Jack, apparently there's a little bit of contact with the McLaren and the steering is now broken on the Lamborghini, so they are out.
Okay, thanks for that, Hayley. So, broken steering on the... So if there was contact with the McLaren, that must have been a late move from Parent or something, because definitely if any move was going to happen, it was going to be Cox going past the Ferrari of Castellacci, and Parent was just kind of behind. So I wonder if that was a bit of a late move from Parent into turn 4. Perhaps a little over-optimistic. We can't tell because we haven't seen the incident. I'm sure it will be under investigation from the stewards, and whatever they decide will tell us the answers. But this will bring the race under safety car then, with 2.5 minutes until the pit stop window opens. Broken steering, and there you can see Marc Basseng and his teammate Nicky Pastorelli both ready to go, both ready to take over the cars in second and third position. It's going to be interesting to see when these guys decide to pit. That's going to be the interesting thing, because obviously if the safety car's out, the field will be much more... The safety car period will bunch the field up a lot more, so making your safety car, making your pit stop will lose you an awful lot more track time. Or do you wait until the last minute where the safety car has been out for a while and you've been able to build up a bit of a gap to those behind and regain some track position? It's going to be very interesting. It just depends all when the safety car comes into the pits, with Felipe Salaquada leading, because if he can hand over to Tony Villander, and if Villander's in the lead of the race, that's going to be very, very impressive. There's Stefan Racina in his Lamborghini. That's cruising around, isn't it? And he was right up with the likes of Van Thor, Bartels and Dusseldorp, so I wonder if there's been some contact there, because that didn't all sound quite according to plan with Stefan Racina. They've all managed to get the Lamborghini onto the back of the truck, so I would suggest this might be the final lap under the safety car that they're about to start. If they can get the car away quick enough. This has allowed Michael Bartels to catch up with the back of the pack, and yep, away goes the lorry. So I think we could be in the situation where this is the final lap under the safety car, and then when the lights go, when the green flag is shown and the safety car comes in, we may see a lot of people deciding it's time to dive into the pits. So it's going to be a very, very interesting situation now. Safety car in at the end of this lap, so that's exactly what's going to happen. Are we going to see Salaquada? I would suggest Salaquada will come straight into the pits, and I think Winkelhock will cover that, and I think Ferrari and Mercedes, or rather AF Corsa and Al Inkel, I think they're going to battle this out, the battle for the lead in the pit stops. That would be my prediction. You can see Stefan Racina coming in. Pit stop window is now open, and Racina is going to hand over to Albert von Turn and Taxis. Ferrari leads, Mercedes, then Ferrari in 4th place. Then we've got Alvaro Paredes up into 5th place, with Oliver Jarvis in the first of the Audis in 6th. Milos Pavlovic in 7th in the Ford. This has bunched the field up, so in effect it's going to be a second race almost, because by the time the race gets underway again, they'll be handing over to their teammates. But I would predict that Salaquada and Winkelhock will both come straight into the pit lane and try and battle it out down there. The only problem for Al Inkel, perhaps, is that they are at the very end of the pit lane, so if it's going to be a close one, they are the ones that need to be careful with releasing. If the Ferrari's coming down the pit lane, they need to be careful not to release their car right in front of the Ferrari. It may all be wrong. Perhaps they'll try and leave Winkelhock out there for a couple of laps to build up a bit of a gap to try and get some pace. But Marc Basseng looks pretty ready, doesn't he? Into turn 15 then. This race is about to get underway, but it could get back underway in curious circumstances, with everyone diving into the pit lane. So the safety car comes into the pit lane. Salaquada has stamped on the throttle and he is gone. And maybe they're all going to stay out then. Out onto the start-finish straight they come. No, Salaquada pits, but Winkelhock doesn't. So Felipe Salaquada comes in as soon as he can, as does the other AF Corsa Ferrari. So that means it's the two Mercedes that now lead the way. Winkelhock ahead of Jaeger, and then it's almost 3 abreast for what is now 3rd position. Alvaro Parente has it. Oliver Jarvis behind. Pavlovic then behind him into 5th place, with Michael Bartels up into 6th. But it won't be long before these guys start to come into the pits. They've only got 7 minutes. In comes Nicky Manmanoff. Matthias Lauda, you can see, with the Red Bull helmet, about to get in and take over. Mike Parisi in the background in the Porsche, taking over as well from Andreas Zuber. But this is going to be very, very interesting tactically, because now Al Inkel have still got both Mercedes now that they need to pit. And obviously they can't, I don't think they can pit them at the same time. I don't think they've got enough crew, frankly. Out comes the McLaren of Fred Makovicky, and he's going to get out just in front of the Porsche of Mike Parisi. That could be a fun little squabble. And that's the second BMW crew getting ready, isn't it? For the second BMW of Michael Bartels and Jelmer Berman. Out of the pits comes Stefan Otelli. He's taken over from Laurence Vanthor. So we're all in a bit of a state of flux at the moment as we wait for the pit stops to sort themselves out. But meanwhile, the two Mercedes are right together now. They're going to start battling here, and that's going to be not work out for them at all. Well, we go on board with Thomas Jaeger. Surely they've got to pit one of them this lap. I would suggest they will pit Winkelhock and allow Jaeger to have a couple of laps by himself out in front. Out of the turn 16 they come, because look, Alvaro Parente is right with them. All of a sudden that McLaren is very much in the battle for the lead of this race. After starting down in 8th place on the grid, there's Basseng then. But look at this McLaren, he's going to try and take the lead of the race before too long. Down into turn 1, not close enough, but Alvaro Parente is at his home circuit, absolutely on it. And how he's brought that McLaren into contention for the lead, I'm not quite sure, because he didn't really seem to have the pace, but now he's all over the back of Thomas Jaeger. Perhaps the McLaren has got its tyres back up to temperature quicker. Here comes the tyre change. And the driver change, of course, as well, but down into the hairpin at half race distance. It's Thomas Jaeger currently leading. Alvaro Parente in 2nd place. Out goes Mark Basseng then. Now this is going to be interesting. Where is he going to come out in relation to the Ferrari? This is the battle for what is the effective lead at the moment. Then out goes Jelmer Berman. Here comes Basseng out of the pit lane. He's going to be comfortably ahead of the Ferrari, isn't he? Where even is the Ferrari? So out goes Mark Basseng. Has the number 3 Ferrari of Verlander gone through? No, it hasn't. So what happened to Verlander and Salaquada? Because they came straight into the pit lane. Maybe Haley can go and find out if they had any dramas at their pit stop or something like that. But here come the two AF Corsa Ferraris, and so from being 1st and 2nd at the start of this race, it has gone horrifically wrong for them in the pit stop window. Verlander and Salaquada were in a battle for the lead. They're now nowhere near that battle. This is the battle for the lead, the Mercedes versus the McLaren. Which one is going to come in? The Mercedes does. So Thomas Jaeger comes into the pits now. So the battle, the immediate battle for him will be with his teammate. Nicky Pastorelli will take over. Where will they come out with regards to the number 38 car? Car 32 and 1 are under investigation. So Stefan Otelli and Fred Makovicky are under investigation for some reason. But into the pits comes Thomas Jaeger. He's shown pretty good pace. That last lap was, he managed to pull away a decent amount, although he's in the pits now, so the actual lap time doesn't come through, but the sector times looked pretty strong from Thomas Jaeger. There's his teammate then, Mark Basseng. This is the battle, if you exclude the McLaren for the moment, this is the battle for the lead. And Basseng's gonna take this, isn't he, through the final corner. Jaeger hasn't even come down off his stops yet, and they're still changing. Well, they've finished the rear right now, but across the line comes Mark Basseng to take the lead of this race. It hasn't worked out well for Thomas Jaeger and Nicky Pastorelli. They're going to be well down the field. So Basseng and Winkelhock lead. The investigation between Otelli and Makovicky was overtake under the safety car. I wonder if they were the cars that were going 3 abreast actually down into the first corner. That could well be what that investigation is for. So, Hayley, what can you tell us?
Update on the Ferrari, Jack. Apparently they had an issue with the starter motor. They could not get that Ferrari started. That's why they lost almost half a minute.
Almost half a minute lost by the Ferrari, and look at this, the Mercedes is pushing the McLaren right towards the inside line as they come down under braking, but the number 1 car is through. So, Fred Macavicchi forcefully getting past Nicky Pastorelli, tries to get the power down, Pastorelli, but he can't do it quick enough to get back past the McLaren. So that means Fred Macavicchi will be up into probably about a net 5th position once it all sorts itself out. So a starter motor problem for the Ferrari. I don't think they've had that problem all season. That's been a bit of a bugbear of the McLarens, but the Ferraris, I thought, weren't in trouble with that kind of thing. Here you can see where there was almost a bit of contact. In fact, there probably was a bit of contact. Yeah, a little nudge there from Fred Macavicchi. Then he got the drive out of the following corner and managed to get past Nicky Pastorelli. So the moment Alvaro Parent comes into the pits, well, that moment looks like it'll be very soon, because there you could see his teammate Gregoire de Moustier prepared to take over, and well, it depends how quickly the McLaren boys can turn that around and whether they have any issues with getting the car started again, as they have done a couple of times previously. But there is Alvaro Parent currently leading this race. Keep an eye out as well for Oliver Jarvis, because look, Oliver Jarvis is only a second behind. So some good pit stop work here, and the McLaren or the Audi could emerge in the lead of this race as the fans look on and wait for that pit stop to happen. It needs to happen on this lap, because as you can see, the pit stop window is about to close. So these 2 cars are going to be the ones that will battle the 38 car of Marc Basseng for the win, possibly if they can get their cars turned around in time. Into the pits comes Alvaro Parent, swooping to the right-hand side. He'll be followed by the 33 Audi of Oliver Jarvis. He is. So now it's a case of watching if the McLaren can get started, and secondly, watching for the final corner and waiting for Marc Basseng to come down. Into the pits comes the McLaren from the race lead. Can they get the car turned around quickly enough to get out once more, still in the race lead? Hexis very good at pit stops, were very strong last year at pit stops in their Aston Martin. Tightly oiled machine based just outside the Lebanon circuit in France. But it was the Alinco.com Munich Motorsport squad who were very strong last year. That's a very good getaway, a very smoky getaway from Gregoire de Moustier. He's coming down the pit lane now. This is going to be the battle for the lead of the race. Are they side by side in the pit lane between the Audi and the McLaren? The Audi's ahead, so this could be Oliver Jarvis and Frank Stippler taking the lead of the race, but across the start-finish line comes Marc Basseng. Is he going to move past them? Look to the right of your shot. Where's the Mercedes? It's through. Mercedes leads, Audi second, BMW third, McLaren fourth is how it's all panned out after those pit stops. So Marc Basseng just emerges in the lead of the race, but now there's some serious defensive work to do for Frank Stippler as he tries to get some heat into his tyres. He's coming under pressure actually from Matthias Lauda. So Matthias Lauda has had a fantastic pit stop. In fact, both the BMWs have. But there is our race leader, Marc Basseng, in the Munich Motorsports Mercedes. De Moustier has now lost out to Jelmer Berman coming out of the hairpin. He has a little look to the inside, but that left-hand kink isn't really going to offer him an overtaking opportunity. He might be able to get alongside, but he'll then be on the outside for turns 8 and 9. All this means that Fred Macavicchi is now in 6th place behind this battle, I believe. So, Marc Basseng and Marcus Winkelhock are now leading this race, but do any of the chasing cars have the pace to close that Mercedes down? It doesn't look like it really, because Basseng is off. Look at the gap he's got already to Oliver Jarvis in 2nd place. Oliver Jarvis, who crept out of nowhere and with the help of that safety car period. The Lamborghini behind, you can see, I think is Albert von Turnen Taxis, and he's not in contention. He is a lap down, unfortunately for him. He's showing decent pace out there once again, is Albert. lapping in the mid-48s. But because of that earlier incident, he is now a lap down. There he is. And so he's not actually in contention. The true sixth-place man is the #1 McLaren of Fred Makovic. And how quickly can he close in on these guys in front? So the pit stops have changed everything, really. Mercedes still leading, but the BMWs have come from absolutely nowhere to suddenly be running third and fourth with a real chance of moving up into second and third place, because Oliver Jarvis is looking okay, but he's going to be coming under a lot of pressure from Matthias Lauda. We're on board with Lauda's teammate, Hjalmar Berman. Sounds fantastic as they accelerate up the hill. You could see Jarvis in front going a little bit wide. This V8 BMW engine. Little lift and then getting back on the power. And then up the hill into turn 9. You can see him just closing in every corner just by a fraction on his teammate. And now we've got Mike Parisi and Matteo Cressoni having a battle. This is over 8th place. This is over the final point. They plunge down the hill into 10 and then up into 11 and 12. So yeah, this is the battle over 8th position, which will give them 8th on the grid, but also 1 championship point, which is a championship point that the Ford GT and the Sunred team desperately crave, because they've yet to have any of them so far this season. We're looking back from Parisi now. Cressoni taking a wide line in, but then struggling to get the power down. You can see him snaking away under acceleration. He's got a lot. Porsche struggling, unsurprisingly, really, with a little bit of understeer. Out wide goes the Ford, now through the final corner. Let's see. The Ford's pretty neat through there, runs out wider earlier, and it's side by side. And now Hjalmar Berman has got past his teammate. Hjalmar Berman is past Matthias Lauda and up into 3rd position. And how quickly can he now close in on the 2nd place man, Oliver Jarvis? So Hjalmar Berman taking advantage out of that final corner. Where's the Ford GT gone? Presumably it's up alongside and in front. So Mike Parisi, has he lost out? Yes, he has. Matteo Cressoni moves up into 8th position and into the final point scoring position. Now towards the hairpin at turn 6, the Porsche's quick in a straight line, so I'm surprised that Cressoni was able to get the job done down the straight, but he has managed it. 2004 Italian Formula 3 champion making his way past Mike Parisi. Here's a replay of Berman going past Lauda. He's got a good toe. Not really close enough unless it's just going to be a do or die. Yeah, good move there from Hjalmar Berman. No hint of team orders. I've no doubt Lauda looked in his mirrors and thought, oh, he's having a go. I better give him more space than usual, considering it's the boss's car. But it certainly was a good move from Hjalmar Berman, and now look how quickly he's moved away from his teammate and has closed in on Oliver Jarvis. We've seen Jarvis doing some sterling defensive work so far this season. Navarra, he was very strong. Zolder, he drove a very defensive race. Frank Stippler in the car now, isn't it? And Stippler is, well, he needs to be very defensive, because look at the speed Berman's got. He's going to try and find the inside line. Stippler knows that and covers it for all he can. Stippler on the inside. Is he going to be later on the brakes? Yes, he is. And there's nothing Berman can do to get the cutback. So Frank Stippler holding onto the position at the moment, immediately diving towards the inside line to defend from any more attacks from the BMWs. Berman needs to be a little bit careful. I don't think Matthias Lauda is really going to attack, but it won't be long as they come down into the left-hander at the hairpin. It won't be long before Hjalmar Berman is able to make another attack on the car in front. There you can see the WRT squad watching on as Frank Stippler tries to hold on to what will be their best finish since Nogaro, when they got a 1st and 2nd in the opening in both the qualifying and the championship race. They haven't been back on the podium since then, so it has been a real challenge for them the second half of this season. Stippler is going to have to go very defensive once again through the final corner. You can see through the quick corners the BMW really plays into his hands. He comes across at the last minute because there's a bit of a panic because Hjalmar Berman was sending one up the inside. Has that compromised Berman's run through this final corner? It's lost him a couple of car lengths, that little half-hearted look, but he was so strong through this final corner. Let's hear if he lifts. Just a bit of a lift, but he carries out so much more exit speed than Frank Stippler. Stippler will go straight to the inside line once more, but Berman's got so much more straight line speed. Stippler's holding it in there. They're absolutely wheel to wheel. Audi on the inside, BMW on the outside. The Audi is still able to hold it because despite that extra momentum that Berman finds, he doesn't quite have enough straight line speed to hold it in there, but the commitment of Berman through that fast turn 16 was absolutely fantastic to watch, feathering the throttle as he tries to carry as much speed through as he possibly can. Back on board, fantastic sound under downshifting, especially in these big GT cars. Up at the front, Marc Basseng is cruising away with it. He's lapping 2 seconds quicker than these guys behind him. So Marc Basseng is on a mission, on a charge you might say, and is definitely beginning to consolidate what should be the victory and the 6th brand to win this season. Ferrari only winning, they did win, but it was the qualifying race. Mercedes will win the qualifying race if things continue how they have so far, but it's all about the battle for 2nd place at the moment because Frank Stippler is really struggling to keep that pace up. You can see him just trying to get the car towards the apex, trying to nurse it in to the center point of the corner, but he just can't get anywhere near it. Again, not troubling the apex. Look how much tighter Hjalmar Berman is able to take that corner, and it's probably going to be a similar story here. Back on the throttle long before the Audi. Stippler's got a decent run out that time actually, so he goes defensive, but he's not going to need it as much. Hjalmar Berman surprisingly doesn't stick in the slipstream, but moves well back to the outside of the circuit as they come into braking for turn 1. You can see what he's trying to do. He's trying to get on the power to then get the cut back into the next corner. Once again, he has a little dart towards the inside line, but Stippler's got it covered. A very experienced campaigner, Frank Stippler, been in DTM for the past couple of seasons. He'll know all about driving defensively. Michael Bartels, thumbs up from Bartels. I think after qualifying in 11th and 13th place, he'll be more than happy if his cars pick up a 3rd and a 4th place. But you can see that it could be much more than that. It could be a front row start for tomorrow's championship race. And there you can see the relative lap times between Berman and Lauda. Since Berman got past, Lauda has been able to match him really. Climb the hill up into 11 and 12. And he's got away a little bit as Frank Stippler in this lap. The gap, you can see visually, has extended just a little bit. Hjalmar Berman, he made such an impact when he came into FIA GT1 last year. Let's hear from his teammate, shall we? Michael Bartels is down in the pit lane as his teammate challenges for 2nd.
Michael Hjalmar's trying so hard to put the pressure on Frank. What would you do if you were in his position?
Of course, in our position, let's say we need all the points to fight for the championship. So he should stay calm, wait for his chance. You can see that the Audi is a bit more in trouble. It looks, now we are on the other side actually, and we passed clearly.
Michael Bartels has commentated us through.
I think now it's important to get the car home and to finish in the points. So we are in 2nd position.
Thank you.
You can do the rest of the race if you want, Michael. So Hjalmar Berman moves up into 2nd place. He crucially got the inside line coming out of that final corner, and as a result was able to send it up the inside. What's Frank Stippler got in response? I doubt very much, considering the pace he's shown. The speed at which Berman was able to close in and get past. Here we go, here's the onboard. Any particular mistake from Stippler? No, you could see Berman was lining it up so early, wasn't he? He was hugging such a tight little line. Instead of going out wide and using all of the circuit, which is the natural racing line, he just hugged it towards the inside, so he knew that he'd have a little bit less speed. He still had to get the job done under braking, but he knew he'd have a little bit less speed, but he'd have the track position. He'd be on the right side of the circuit that he wanted to be on. He's some 10 seconds now behind Marc Basseng up in the lead of this race, so there's no chance of a win really for Jelmer Berman unless he can churn out laps that are 2 seconds a lap quicker than Basseng, which I think is highly unlikely. But will Matthias Lauda now use that experience that he's seen his teammate performing in front of him to try and get past? You can see all the AstroTurf being ripped up on the exit of turn 15. So this is going to be the interesting thing now. The gap was 1.5 seconds between the Audi and the BMW as they crossed the line at that time. This time they come across the line and it's just 0.7 of a second, so the battle still might be on for third. But Marc Basseng continues to lead this race. His teammate Markus Winkelhock did a fantastic job battling through to get into second place before the pit stop windows came. Slick pit stop from the Al-Inkle squad, certainly for Basseng and Winkelhock, promoted them into the lead of the race. But there's their teammate then, Nicky Pastorelli. He's up behind Grégoire de Moustier actually in the battle over 6th position, and Pastorelli should be getting past before too long because he's lapping quicker than the McLaren in front. As they come down into the hairpin, we go on board with Nicky Pastorelli. De Moustier just pulling away on traction on the exit of the corner. Fred Makovicky has got past his teammate then on that last lap. So Makovicky is up into 5th place. McLaren's running 5th and 6th. There's Winkelhock. Pretty satisfied with this performance. Of course, they have been... this one's involving 37 and 24 is under investigation. So Nicky Pastorelli and Albert von Turn and Taxis have obviously come together at some point during this race. But even though Albert von Turn and Taxis is a lap down, so you can see Albert just in the background there. The Lamborghini will just flash into your shot on the right-hand side, but there he is. So they've obviously come together whilst Pastorelli was trying to lap it, but this could be the chance for Pastorelli to get past de Moustier into this final corner. Mercedes very strong through turn 16. Can he get a quick enough drive out? Look how close he is to the back of the McLaren. That must be a pretty imposing sight in your rear view mirror. The McLaren goes out wide. Pastorelli takes good momentum. He's tucked into the slipstream, but he's not quite getting enough of a drag off the McLaren in front. Has a little look to the inside. Is he just going to send one last to the late breakers from Nicky Pastorelli? Has to back out of it. De Moustier holds it on around the outside. Good driving from the young Frenchman, but that was a bit of a brave move from Nicky Pastorelli, and he couldn't quite pull it off. But you can see how quickly he's closed in on the McLaren in front of him over the past few laps, and he's definitely the quicker car. But 6th place, if Nicky Pastorelli can get into 6th place, that's got to be disappointing because he was very much in the battle for the lead of this race. The Ferraris, meanwhile, astonishingly, are in 11th and 12th place. Tony Valanza and Enzo Ede, 11th and 12th. Only the lap down Albert von Turn and Taxis and the retired Peter Cox are behind him. So Vita for one are a little bit frustrated out there. It's difficult to see why. There was that pit board we just saw down to the left which said radio on. I don't know if that means that they're having communication problems. That's something to investigate. But here once again will come the attack of the Mercedes. Up into the left-hander. Oh, very late on the brakes from Pastorelli. Into 14. Now 15, which is a case of being patient. Oh, I thought he was going to send one up the inside there. A case of being patient, getting the power on as smoothly and as quickly as possible. I think, once again, de Moustier is just a tiny bit too far ahead, although Pastorelli has absolutely thrown it into that final corner. You can see de Moustier dabbing on the brakes just to settle the car down as they come through that turn 16. Across the line they come. 8.5 minutes to go, and this battle still raging over 6th position. Only 0.2 of a second between them. You can see there the Ford GT going past the lapped Albert von Turnen Taxis, so no real moves of note there. Much tighter to the apex is Nicky Pastorelli. So they head down towards turn 6 now. What kind of lap times is Cressoni doing? He's having about a second a lap quicker, that Ford GT, than these two battling in front. So I think Matteo Cressoni, if Nicky Pastorelli doesn't get past this McLaren before too long, Matteo Cressoni in that Ford GT is going to be in with a shout of grabbing 6th position. Little look up the inside into turn 8. Pastorelli's going for all the half-hearted manoeuvres, isn't he? Instead of possibly just waiting for the right one. So they climb up the hill. And look, you can see now the gap between these three cars is pretty much equidistant. Through the timing screen they come, and it's half a second between McLaren and Mercedes. It's probably less than that between Mercedes and Ford GT. So Matteo Cressoni lapping very quickly indeed as they come into the final sequence of corners. And well, this is where Pastorelli lost out last lap because he tried to send a little one up the inside. It didn't work out for him, but now he's decided to consolidate and try and get the best run he can through the final corner. He needs to be careful though, because Cressoni is right with him. This is 6th, 7th, 8th, all flashing through shot. And the Ford GT of Matteo Cressoni is not going to be close enough, I don't think. Pastorelli is worried about it though and moves straight to the defensive, because the Ford GT is very, very quick in a straight line. It might even be able to get alongside into turn 1. No, not this time around. But this will relieve some of the pressure on Grégoire de Moustier with 6.5 minutes to go. Will it? Because he's really getting still sucked into this battle as de Moustier. He's not able to break away despite the Ford and the Mercedes battling. Down into the hairpin once more. Turn 6. Pastorelli going defensive again. Albert von Turnen Taxis in the Lamborghini is a non-event. He's a lap down in 13th place, so it's not really, he's not really of concern unless he starts battling with these guys, but I don't think he will, because he'll know via pitboard or radio that he is in fact a lap down and not actually battling with these guys for position. He's not in the battle over 6th place. 5.5 minutes to go here then at Portimao. And this is a very close 3-car battle for 6th position. We've had very close 3, 4, 5-car battles for the majority of this race. And is this the chance? Up the hill, up the inside goes the Mercedes, and he's managed to get past. Good manoeuvre from Nicky Pastorelli. He sized that one up a couple of laps ago. Now Cressoni is going to try and attack the McLaren, although Pastorelli's gone a little bit wide through 15. He's now managed to get the drop, and I think with the superior Mercedes handling through this final corner, we should see him pull away as they come over the start-finish straight. But he got the look up the inside into 14, and he's gone. De Moustier goes very wide over the grass on the exit. That's going to allow Cressoni the chance to get up into 7th position, and all of a sudden, once the floodgates open, De Moustier can't shut them in time, and the Mercedes is through, and now the Ford is through, up into 7th place. De Moustier down into 8th. Albert von Turnen Taxis is still a lap down, but he's still feeling pretty feisty by the looks of things. And he's putting in some good laps as well. 49.5 that time around for Albert. Here we go then, here's the move. And, okay, so wider line in, more speed out. Oh, okay, so I think de Moustier outbroke himself there. I think if de Moustier hadn't been too late on the brakes, you could see him, he was nowhere near getting the car turned into that left-hander at 14. So I think if he'd have been able to get on the brakes a little bit better, he may well have been able to block that off. Now we've got a battle over 4th place and possibly even 3rd, because here comes the McLaren up the inside straight away, wasting no time in getting past Matthias Lauda. Fred Makovicky reached the back of the BMW and just got the job done. Straight past, up the inside into turn 12, and now there's a chance that this McLaren could find itself on the podium if he can close in Frank Stippler in front in the remaining 3.5 minutes of this race. Bassin comes across the line, so we've probably got 2 or 3 more laps out of this one. There's the McLaren. There's Lauda. There's second place man Jelmer Berman. So he's untouchable, I think. But over the crest of the hill comes the Audi. He is by no means untouchable. Only 1.4 seconds between them as they cross the line. Bit of flapping going on the right-hand side of that Matthias Lauda BMW. I wonder if there was a bit of contact between the pair as they came through. But look at this, Makovic was closing in. He just did it. He just drove up the inside and got past. Absolutely fantastic stuff from Fred Makovic, who after his strong weekend in Slovakia ring became the highest point scorer in the FIA GT1 World Championship, overtaking Darren Turner, moved to the top of that particular list. So throughout all this, Marc Basseng has just got his head down and driven away. 2.5 minutes to go, and there's a spin for a Ferrari. It's, can't tell you which one because they look absolutely identical apart from their number, but one of them has gone round up there at turn 5, and we think it was Tony Verlander. There's a bit of smoke going on, and yes, it was number 3 car of Tony Verlander. He was battling with Stefano Telli and Mike Parisi all over 9th place, so it looks like that may have ended in a bit of tears. We'll see when they come across the line next time who exactly is in which position. 1 minute 50 seconds remaining, and well, how soon is Marc Basseng going to cross the line? This might be the final lap. Yeah, this is the penultimate lap they're on now, because Marc Basseng comes across the line to start his final lap of the race. That means that if the McLaren of Fred Makovic wants to get past Frank Stippler, he needs to do it sooner rather than later. There you can see Stefano Telli. But there is our race leader, Marc Basseng, into turn 4 for the final time. Yet to get a win so far this season, but they're still leading the team's championship. And although this will only give Basseng and Winkelhock 8 points, so it's not going to move them up any higher in the Drivers' Championship. It's going to consolidate their position at the top of the Teams' Championship and crucially put them on pole position for tomorrow's championship race. They've shown brilliant race pace, and no one really has been able to match the Mercedes. Tony Verlander did set the fastest lap of the race on lap 17, his first hot lap out of the pits. That was a 46.9, but Marc Basseng has regularly lapped in the mid-48s. Marcus Winkelhock watching on the Al Inkel pit wall. The Munich Motorsports team have been the best squad at changing tyres in the pit stops throughout this season. They were in contention for the championship in 2011 until a disastrous trip to China meant that they weren't really in contention coming into the final round of the season. The back end steps out a little bit for Marc Basseng and Marcus Winkelhock. Marc Basseng said that he just needs to focus on getting solid points, and that will give them the championship in the teams. But if he keeps winning races like this, he could well be in with a shout of the Drivers' Championship. Marc Basseng wins for Munich Motorsports. Marcus Winkelhock is delighted hanging out of the pit wall. It's a win for the Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG, their first win in GT1. Second place is Jelmer Berman and Michael Bartels, and just about in third place, Oliver Jarvis and Frank Stippler driving the car across the line. Good race indeed for Oliver Jarvis and Frank Stippler. Incident involving car 32 and 3 is under investigation, so Verlander must have come together with Stefano Telli. Fourth place for the McLaren, fifth place for the second BMW of Matthias Lauda and Nicky Meyer-Nernoff, sixth place for Nicky Pastorelli and Thomas Jaeger, seventh for Matteo Cressoni and Milos Pavlovic. Their first points of the season. They will be delighted with that. Grégoire de Moustier and Alvaro Parent come across the line in eighth. Mike Parisi and Andreas Zuber, ninth position for them. Ortelli and Vanthor in 10th. And then the two Ferraris. They started first and second. They finished 11th and 12th. It's an absolutely disastrous afternoon, really, for the AF Corsa squad. And that's been the story of their season, really. They've had the pace. They've had the pace today. There's no denying that. Fastest lap of the race was Tony Verlander in his number 3 AF Corsa Ferrari. But for some reason, in the races, it just doesn't work out for them. And then on the other hand, you've got the Mercedes, where, yes, they had the pace today, but in general, they haven't quite had the pace this season. But they know how to drive a race. They know how to work the strategy. And all that has given them the lead in the team's championship. And this is going to do the drivers' championship hopes of Marc Basseng and Marcus Winkelhock no harm at all. Their teammates Nicky Pastorelli and Thomas Jaeger, it'd be interesting to find out what exactly happened to them, whether it was a slow pit stop or a slow out lap, slow in lap. Whatever the cause, they could only finish down in 6th position at the end of the race. Marc Basseng and Marcus Winkelhock, race winners here in the qualifying race at Portimao. The championship race is coming up for you tomorrow, 2 o'clock local time. We will be live, and you can join us then for what will be an hour-long action-packed championship race. Hopefully, if it's anywhere near as good as today's race, it'll certainly be worth tuning in, because we had battles going on for every possible position, and throughout the race there was always a battle going on somewhere. 2nd place for Jelmer Berman and Michael Bartels. That's fantastic work for them, almost unbelievable work from them. 11th on the grid to 2nd in the race. Here's a look at the results. Marc Basseng and Marcus Winkelhock taking the win in their Mercedes. Berman and Bartels 11th on the grid to 2nd in the race. Very impressive. Also, Makovic and Dusseldorp moving from 12th on the grid to 4th in the race. It really was a real topsy-turvy race. Frank Stippler and Oliver Jarvis, best result in a long time for the Audis, and are they now back on the pace? Nicky Pastorelli and Thomas Jaeger disappointed with 6th. First points of the season for Matteo Cressoni and Milos Pavlovic, Grégoire de Moustier and Alvaro Parent. Then a day to forget for Reiter Engineering, Albert von Turn and Taxis finishing a lap down after Racina picked up a puncture, and Peter Cox out of the race after contact with Alvaro Parent. Marc Basseng and Marcus Winkelhock congratulate each other. Driver pairing that have been together for almost 3 years now, and they certainly seem to work very well as a pair, pretty well matched as well in terms of pace. There's Jelmer Berman, 2nd position for him, and he and Michael Bartels I think will be fairly satisfied with how things have transpired there, because they probably weren't expecting a 2nd place from 11th on the grid. They've done an excellent job. Safety car no doubt helped them, no doubt there at all, but they still had to get the job done. As Marc Basseng removes his helmet, as does Jelmer Berman. Michael Bartels nowhere to be seen just yet. It'd be interesting to find out what exactly all the panic was on the Vita for One pit wall that we saw towards the end of the race, but it didn't appear to affect them too badly, as Berman gets congratulated by his team, and he really has turned into a bit of a rising star. He was out at Le Mans, Jelmer Berman, and performed strongly there on his first visit to Le Mans. But let's hear from our race winners. Marc Basseng is down there with Hayley Coxon.
Mark, congratulations. You were quoted in saying you will never win a race. You will get 2nd, 3rd, but here you are, taking a win with you. How did you do it?
I really don't know. We have to go a bit deeper into the data. I mean, the car was really good in the last turn. It looks in the race in the beginning. And we had, again, a really consistent car. And I think the guys did, again, a great job at the pit stops. Maybe that is the gap we had. And we couldn't pull it wide, and I could bring it home. And I'm really happy with this qualifying race win. So we hope for more tomorrow.
Thank you, Mark. And Marcus, obviously, Mark mentioned the fabulous pit stop. You guys are famous for great pit stops here. And Portimao, you did it once again. So now you're starting on the front row for the championship race. Do you think you can deliver today, tomorrow even?
I hope so, for sure. The car was okay. Was not too bad. Pit stops were great again. And yeah, I think I expected everything but not a win this weekend. I thought we can be happy with a top 10 finish here, because I expected to be very slow on the straight, but the car was I have to say, was quite competitive the first time this year, and now I'm absolutely looking forward for the race tomorrow.
You've got to be worried about that BMW. The BMW is mega, isn't it? It started way back of the grid, and here it is finishing on the podium. Absolutely, they were really strong. They had also good strategy, good pit stops, and I think it will be for sure a tough fight tomorrow in the race. Thank you, Marcus.
Well, they certainly delivered and did the job today, didn't they? Whether they can do it tomorrow is another question. They will be starting in the best possible position though as they pose for photographs, and it is definitely an entertaining race as they don't move anywhere championship wise, I don't think, from my rough calculations. I think they're still going to remain in third place because it's not really about the points. They get congratulated by the Audi team. Let's see from our second place men, Michael Bartels, but first of all Jelmer Berman down with Haley Coxon.
Congratulations guys, another podium finish. Jelmer, what a performance. You had a couple of battles on your hands there, and here you are. You started from the back of the grid and once again on the podium.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, we struggled a bit in qualifying and we're a bit lost, but I think maybe with the temperature changes things around, and I mean, it was a great race. Just a lot of fun overtaking, but it was not easy because we were, you know, again struggling for top speed. Every time I would get past the Audi and then he would catch me back. So in the end I managed to get on the right side, and then I had him. So and then it was just trying to, you know, close the gap to the #1 car, but he was too far away and too quick. So but great race.
Michael, how can you guys do it in the BMW? How do you do it? We've seen you do it twice now, and it's been great for us to watch. It must be frustrating as a team to watch for you guys, but what a great result.
I think there came a few factors together. I had not the best qualifying, so I couldn't bring the car in Q3. I started from the back. I was involved in a couple of hard fights with Parente and with I don't know who was the other car. Then of course the safety car helped us, and it went in the right moment, because otherwise it would be maybe with two cars in the same time in the pits. And then of course the brilliant driving in the end of the race, or in the last second part of the race of Jelmer. So some other 6 important points for to stay in the fight of the championship. Okay, tomorrow is the time to hopefully take the big points, but I think we did a good job. We stayed calm, you know, we looked for our chances, and we were hoping for hot conditions in the race that goes a little bit better in our direction for the performance, and I think this was visible today, and we're looking forward for tomorrow.
Thank you, Michael.
It's quite an interesting point, because obviously qualifying took place at 9 o'clock local time this morning, and the temperature barely edged above 20 degrees, whereas now we're certainly in the mid to high 20s. So it's certainly interesting that the BMW seem to perform better in the hotter temperatures. Incident between car 32 and car 3, no further action. So whatever happened between Stefan Ortelli and Tony Verlander has been decided by the stewards that it's not too much of an issue. Frank Stippler and Oliver Jarvis back on the podium after a long time. The Audi drivers are down with Haley.
Congratulations guys. Frank, Jelmer was putting the pressure on there. For a moment we thought you were going to hold on to your position, but he stole it off you, and in style as well.
Yeah, we were struggling a lot in the last corner, which is quite important for the racetrack here, because we've got a long straight afterwards, and I knew it already before that this could be a problem, and the traffic was gaining some time as well, right behind the BMW. So at a certain stage I decided to let him pass through and trying to keep the third position.
Ollie, a second row start for you guys tomorrow. Do you think you're going to get another good result?
I'd like to think so. I mean, unfortunately, in qualifying, we're not quite quick enough. It appears, you know, we're not very happy with our straight line speed. Again, today, I think in the race, you can see we struggle. So the problem is on the starts, we really we struggle to stay in position. Quite often, we lose 1 or 2 places. So, but we'll fight tomorrow, and hopefully, we can move forward.
What about this mega track?
It's a fantastic, not just mega track, but a mega place. You know, 2 minutes to the beach, beautiful track. You couldn't ask for a better venue.
Thank you, guys.
So Frank Stippler decided to let Jelmer Berman through. That's the motor racing driver coming out. So Stippler and Jarvis head off to the press conference to join the other 4 drivers who will finish in the top 3. And there you can see Bartels and Basseng and Winkelhock, 2 big German teams. It's a very big German presence. 6 German drivers we've got in FIA GT1, and a few major German teams. Of course, we've got Audi as well, Porsche. So brands and teams all represented. Here's a look at the results then. The race win for Mark Basseng and Markus Winkelhock. Bermans and Bartels in second place. Third position going the way of Frank Stippler and Oliver Jarvis. Fourth for Fred Makovic and Steph Dusseldorp. They had an impressive race, and they'll be hoping they can keep that kind of pace going for the championship race tomorrow. Matthias Lauda and Nicky Meermanov, 5th place. Another strong performance from them, but they don't seem to be quite able to pull it out in the championship race. Will that all change tomorrow? Nicky Pastorelli and Thomas Jaeger in 6th place, with Matteo Cressoni and Milos Pavlovic in 7th. As we say, a real time to forget for Reiter Engineering. Real shame for them, because they've been very, very quick here this weekend, but it's just not coming together for them. So, as far as those results are concerned, they don't really change the championship too much. As you can see, everyone in a very similar position. The only change is that Jaeger and Pastorelli are now ahead of Salaquada and Tony Belanda. And I think there's probably a rather large post-mortem to be done down there at Ferrari after a pretty disastrous race for the AF Corsa squad. Bartels and Berman then still on top, 9 points clear of Makovic and Dusseldorp, but Basseng and Winkelhock are now just 2 points behind the McLaren pairing. So that's going to be very, very tight going into tomorrow's race. And as far as the teams are concerned, Alink will consolidate their position. But look at that battle over 2nd place. Vita for 1, Belgian Audi Club and Hexis Racing, all on 94 points. It's absolutely fantastically close. AF Corsa in 5th, Eximbank Team China in 6th, with Reiter Engineering in 7th place with 33 points. Again, they've slipped down to 7th, having not picked up any points again today. So there's Stefan Rattel. He's the head of SRO, and he's doing a little interview down there in the pit lane, as probably, hopefully, about how good that race was, because it was very, very entertaining stuff. You can see the support race about to get underway here at the Circuit Algarve. The championship race is coming up for you tomorrow, and you can see it live on the GT1 World website and on various TV stations at 2 o'clock tomorrow, local time. So, it was a very long hold at the start, but straight away, the AF Corsa Ferraris managed to hold on to the lead. The two Mercedes in 2nd and 3rd place almost came together, but just about held it all together. Alvaro Parent was very strong. Michael Bartels got mugged early on by quite a few cars. There was unfortunately a puncture for Stefan Racina, which meant that him and Albert von Ternataxis dropped a lap down. Marcus Winkelhock managed to get past Francesco Castellacci and move up into 2nd place. He was soon followed by his teammate, meaning the Mercedes was 2nd and 3rd going towards the pit stop window. We had a great 3-way battle for the lead, and then a 5-way battle for 4th place. It really was fantastic stuff early on. But then this incident, Peter Cox colliding with that McLaren, which meant that the steering on Peter Cox's car was broken. He climbed out of the car, and that meant the safety car was brought out. When the safety car came in, the Ferrari immediately pitted, but they had troubles in their pit stops, couldn't get the engine started, lost over half a minute in the pit stop window, which meant that when they emerged, it was that red machine of Marcus Winkelhock and Marc Basseng who inherited the lead of the race. The two Ferraris were then running down in 11th and 12th place after starting in 1st and 2nd. It didn't work out particularly well for Thomas Jaeger and Nicky Pastorelli. They came out all the way down in 6th position. Alvaro Parent took over from, handed over, I should say, to Gregoire Demoustier. And Demoustier did a solid job bringing it home. He was initially coming out in just about 4th position. There was the battle for the lead. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, all coming through turn 1 together. Good move from Jelmer Berman to get past his teammate, sending it up the inside down into turn 1. Good strong move, and he then set about trying to get past the Belgian Audi Club R8 of Frank Stippler. He tried many, many a time, couldn't quite make it stick, constantly forced towards the outside, much to Bartel's frustration. But then finally, Berman managed to get the inside line going down the main straight, and from there on, it was job done, outbraking the Audi down into the first corner, where he then pulled away. There was some radio glitches potentially within the BMWs, but then the second BMW lost out to Fred Makovic, who just glided past up the inside into turn 12. Very good move from him. But Marc Basseng and Marcus Winkelhock drove a faultless race, and they took the checker flag for the first time this season, holding on to their 3rd place in the Drivers' Championship and holding on to their leading position in the Teams Championship. Join us tomorrow, 2 o'clock local time, for the championship race for the 5th round of the season. From everyone here at GT1, we'll see you tomorrow.